Hello everyone and welcome to SuttonsDaze. We're going to be doing a three-part series here on things to stock up on, okay? I am hearing all kinds of reports, as I'm sure you are. We all know about the issues with the distribution. We all know about the increased prices in fuel. We all know about all of the stuff that's out there. Whatever your opinion is on why, I don't care. So don't tell me. But the fact is that it's happening. My concern is making sure that we are prepared for the issues that are going to be coming up in the next 6 months. I recently read a report about Bloomberg saying that they believe that diesel prices across the board are going to be at least $9 a gallon by harvest season. That's just a few months away, right? So that price is going to be passed on to the farmers, who is then passed on to the distribution, who is then passed on to the consumers. That's us. You know what they say about rolling downhill. We're at the bottom of the hill, and we need to be prepared for when this comes. My friend Mouse says it well, the world is on fire. So let us get prepared, okay? Let us do everything that we can today to get prepared. Now, if you are new to preparing, then don't fret. Seriously, take a deep breath, do what you can, and hopefully these lists over the next 3 videos will help you to become better prepared, to kind of trigger some thought on things that you need, that you may, want to stock up on a little bit. You don't need to purchase a year's worth of an item at one time. You buy a couple things at a time. You build it up. Our pantry did not occur overnight. Our pantry occurred over years, and thanks to that, okay, I'm kind of comfortable where I'm at. But this is my list, and I even thought of things that I didn't think about before, or different ways to do things that I hadn't thought of before. Pardon me. So that's what I'm here to do. I don't want to fearmonger. That is not my intent. I don't care who you think's fault it is that we are where we are right now. I really don't care. What I care about is the fact that we're here, and that by the end of August, September, we're going to need to be here. And so what can we do to get ourselves as prepared as possible to meet the demands that we're going to be facing at that time? It's going to continue to be a rough year. I said this back in 2020. We're not done with this. This is nowhere near done. We are just at the beginning stages of quite a few years of turmoil, okay? So we need to do what we can to become better prepared for us and our families. That is my #1 priority, is to make sure that you have everything that you need and can do everything that you need to do at today's prices, instead of the prices that are going to be happening in just a short while. So we're going to cover 10 items on each video, and these 10 items are actually more, okay, but 10 categories, let's go that way, 10 categories, and we're going to be covering those for the next 3 videos. And I want to bring you guys along, and hopefully this helps you build your list for what you need to be spending your hard-earned money on in order to become better prepared to see you through this fall and this winter. It is just coming up on solstice. It is just coming up on the first day of summer, okay? And we're all over the country already dealing with record-breaking temperatures, way high. I mean, nobody sweats like this in Michigan at this time of year, and we're doing it. So we're already seeing that. We're seeing rolling blackouts, okay, through a good sect of the country, because they cannot keep up with the energy demand because of the high heat. So what can we do to become better prepared for all of the emergencies that could potentially happen over the course of the next 6 to 12 months? Let's start here. First thing on my list, and these are in no particular order, okay? These are just as they came to me, okay? These are just as they came to me. So first on my list, I am a huge advocate of food preservation and canning. Canning is my thing. I love it. To me, shelf-stable food is the best food that you can possibly get. And that's the ability to purchase it today at today's prices, so that you're not paying tomorrow's elevated prices. That is the key right there, okay? I have a shelf of 99 cents a pound chicken breast, and right now in my area, it's going for $3.69 a pound. Never thought I would see the day. So it's being prepared like that. That is what this does for us, so that we can fight the inflation and use that hard-earned money on the things that we need to do, like probably pay the electric bill. Okay, so number one, canning supplies. Canning supplies. Is that a surprise, right? If you're going to be canning, if you're going to be preserving food in a canning method, you should have already been ordering them, but I encourage you today to order them. Get your supplies, okay? Get your clear gel, get your Sure gel, get your pectin. You know, I prefer Pomona's. I'll put a link down below, but because it uses less sugar. So not only are you spending less money to make a superior product, it's better for you because it has less sugar. So I really like Pomona's, and the price breakdown, if you buy it in the bulk, is phenomenal. It's great, and it lasts forever. There's no expiration date. How do you believe it or not? I'll put a link down below. So we get this question a lot. You know, what kind of salt? When you're doing canning, a kosher salt or a pickling salt, those are the ones that you want to get, because if you use regular table salt, most of the time that's iodinized salt, and that will make your product cloudy. Is it no good? No, it's just ugly to look at. Anyway, so the easy way to get around this is just keep kosher salt in your house, you guys. It doesn't have to be pickling salt. It can be kosher salt. It's great. Jars. If you don't have them, get them. If you don't have them, find them. Check out Craigslist. Check out your Facebook Marketplace. Check out your buy-sell groups, that kind of thing. Keep an eye out at garage sales. Find your jars. My price point for buying used has risen in the last 2 years now to 50 cents a jar. It used to be a quarter a jar. 50 cents a jar for used jars, okay? You want to make sure to inspect them. You know, sometimes it's a lot, and you just get what's in that lot and fake it from there. But as long as you're looking over it enough to say, okay, they're not all mayonnaise jars, then you're good to go. Otherwise, try to get what you can, you know, when they're available. They're showing up at your local Walmarts, Menards, at different places. Ball, Kerr, Pure, those jars are good. There was another one, Golden Harvest. Those are really good jars, okay? And I think those are the main ones here in the States anyway. There is a new one that's cropping up now at Dollar General called True Living. I'm hearing very mixed reviews on using these for pressure canning. I've heard quite a few people say that they are blowing up in the canner, so I personally, I wouldn't spend the money hearing those reviews, you know? So you make your decision what's best for you. But get the jars, and get a few more than you think you need, okay? Depending on your space, depending on your budget, if you can do it, get a few more than you think you need. We can predominantly in pint-sized jars. It's the two of us that I base my calculations off of. So I don't do a lot of quarts. Do I have a lot of quarts? Well, yes, I do. Thank you very much. Because they're on a shelf in my breezeway. And if the freezers ever go down, if the grid ever goes down, I have a finite amount of time to get as much of that into jars as I possibly can. And you know I've got enough jars to pull that off. So that's a goal. That's not a must-have today. What you must have today is to make sure that you have jars to get what you plan on putting up for the next 6 to 12 months, okay? And if you're just starting out, start with 3 months. The next thing is canning lids. Take a look at your jars. Are they wide mouth? Are they regular mouth? What's the majority? Plan how many lids you need. If you're an avid canner like I am, I have a few years worth of lids, and I've never been so grateful. The lids that I very much stand behind now are the 4 jars lids. Wow, okay. 4 jars lids. Seriously, they are all I have used since the beginning of the year, and I love them. I do not have failures. I do not have problems. They are a quality lid. The price point is spot on pre-pandemic. Life is good. If you want to save a couple bucks and buy bulk, then please use the link down below, and it will, if you put in the coupon code SuttonsDaze, you get 10% off. Okay, it's a win-win. Full disclosure, I am now an affiliate, but I love their lids. I wouldn't bring them to you if I did not think that they were good, because if they do bad, then I look bad. I look bad enough on my own. I don't need any help. So think about all the different things that you use for canning. Stock up on vinegar, okay? Stock up on both kinds of vinegar, apple cider and white. Make sure that your white vinegar is 5%. Stock up on some bottled lemon juice if you do jams and jellies, okay? Because real lemons, you can't guarantee the acidity level. Lemon juice, you can. So you want to stock up on some lemon juice. I'm not saying buy a case of the stuff that, you know, just buy a bottle or two, depending on how much you make, you know, how much jam and jelly you plan on making. But it's a good thing to have a backup to your backup. Do you know what I mean? So that's the first thing, canning supplies. The next thing is baking supplies, and this is a very finite, small part of baking supplies, okay? But we're looking pretty much at flour right now. Now, as a lot of you have been with me know, you know, stocking up on flour is great, but it's only good for about a year before it starts to go rancid, and that's just plain all-purpose flour. So if that's what you like to use, that's awesome. You can buy, depending on how much you use, you know, what you use it for, that's fairly still inexpensive. The prices are starting to go up, but you can get that for fairly cheap. Get some food grade buckets, get some lids, you're good to go. We'll talk about, you know, other ways to preserve it later, but all-purpose flour, self-rising flour, bread flour, cake flour, and then, you know, there's a million grains out there, you know, that you can do. But what I have decided to do for my long-term storage is I still have some all-purpose flour that I use. There's a little bit left, not much, and I'm going to whittle that down to non-existent because I am moving over completely to home milled flour. That is because that doesn't have a shelf life. The grain, the wheat berries that you mill down into flour, as long as they're kept as berries, have an infinite life, at least 30 years. Okay, so if they do nothing but sit there in a bucket, which is not my intent, they'll outlive me. So I'm switching over to that. The longer this goes on, the more cost prohibitive that becomes. If it's something you're interested in doing, then I would look into it more today and start stocking up on it today. I would even start stocking up on the wheat berries before you have a chance to buy the mill of your choice. There are 3 of them out there that I highly recommend, and I have watched those prices increase steadily for over a year now. So I'll put those down below. And if it's easier, get a hand mill. I mean, no, it's not easier to actually produce the flour, but it's easier on the budget for sure, and you can do it. It doesn't take that much unless you're making bread and whatnot for, you know, a family of 20. It doesn't take that much to mill your own with a hand mill. I'll put that link down below too, but consider doing that. There is a learning curve, so it's a good thing to transition over to. I have a playlist where I'm showing you how I got my mill and, you know, the first couple things that I did with it, and I love it. I love it a lot, and it's so much healthier than all-purpose white flour that you get from the store, and it's so much healthier than anything that you could buy pre-made in the store. So I encourage everybody to learn how to do that. The third thing is sweeteners. Everybody has some kind of sweet tooth, right? You know, you want to sweeten things up, you want to make it good. Well, of course, there's white sugar, okay? White sugar is the staple for a lot of different things, baking, canning, you name it. There's all different things that you use sugar for. But with that white sugar, you can actually create 2 other things. You can create your own brown sugar using molasses. There's a million videos out there on it, okay? And there is, if you are a brown sugar connoisseur, you'll notice the taste difference, okay? But otherwise, it's brown sugar. So go for it. And you can control how brown the sugar is, which is even better. The other thing that you can do with white sugar is you can make your own confectioner's sugar. So you don't have to buy that whole other product. You can make it as you go off of your stored sugar. Because have you ever had confectioner's sugar that's gone bad? Oh, it's bad. It's really bad. Maybe I was just lucky. I don't know. Has anybody else had that happen? It actually turned like rancid. So maybe it's just my luck of the draw. Who knows? Anyway, so white sugar, brown sugar, confectioner's sugar, right? Because who doesn't love some frosting on your cinnamon rolls? Yeah. Molasses. Molasses is another one of those infinite kind of things for your pantry. As long as it's stored in a good container, It can stay there for a very long time. If you have access to local honey, stock up on it. It's a little pricier. It's not something I necessarily want to use all the time in my baking because of its cost, but it's really good to have around. And if it's local, it helps with allergies, I'm told, locally. I don't know, but honey is another one of those forever foods. So if you can only afford a quart, get a quart. If you can only afford the little brown bear, get the little brown bear, okay? But get some honey because it's good for a whole bunch of different things. Maple syrup, corn syrup, Caro syrup, these are all different sweeteners. So if you use them, then it's a good idea to stock up on them. The other thing is artificial sweeteners. Again, your opinion, your life, your house, your whatever. But artificial sweeteners for some people are very important, and they're a great thing to have on hand to cut back on that sugar in your diet, right? Now, when you're looking at white sugar, there's cane sugar and there's beet sugar. Here in Michigan, we are the home of Pioneer, which is beet sugar. And then for the purists, there is Domino, which is cane sugar. Both are good. There are arguments all over the place about which one's better for you. Like I said, your home, your choice, your deal. But take a look at those, figuring out what you need for you and your family, and try to factor out how much you use of it in 3 months, 6 months, a year, okay? And then start stocking up on it. Most of them are forever foods. Forever foods are awesome. Yes, they are. Now, the not so forever foods are your oils. Who doesn't use oil, right? So vegetable oil, canola oil, coconut oil, corn oil, peanut oil, sunflower oil, olive oil, avocado oil, lard, Crisco, whatever, okay? But all of them have a finite shelf life. There's a very finite shelf life on all of them, and it's typically around 6 months. So don't go hog wild. Don't go hog wild and buy a whole bunch of it, okay? Now, if you have a freezer and you can get lard from your butcher, then sure, get some of that lard and throw it into, or, pig fat that you render down into lard, and put that in your freezer. Perfect. Then you can render it as you need it, and that's absolutely fantastic. Your things like lard and Crisco, though, you can stick in the freezer and it will extend that shelf life. When you pull it out of the freezer, though, that clock starts ticking, okay? So you have to be aware of that. So some kind of oil is good for you. Do you save bacon grease? I save bacon grease. Do you save bacon grease? The best place, in my opinion, for it is in a jar in the fridge. A lot of people leave it on a jar on their counter. 6 of one, half dozen the other. It depends on where you are and how you were raised and, what you use it for. Okay, number 5. Let's talk about some leavening agents. Yes. So we've got baking soda, baking powder, and yeast. All 3 of these have distinct purposes when it comes to different kinds of baking. Do you remember back in 2020 when you couldn't get yeast to save your soul, right? Okay. So it's always good to stock up a little bit on yeast. And I'm not talking a case. You don't have to get a case. I use the SAS yeast. It comes in a vacuum-packed, vacuum-sealed brick. And the last time I bought it, it was like $6-7, for that brick. And you can keep it in the freezer. It lasts. It's really good. So take a look at those. Those also have, though, the baking powder and baking soda do have shelf lives. They're not good indefinitely. The yeast, if you keep it in the freezer, you can do that for a long time. But the baking powder and baking soda figure a year or 2, and then you have to figure out what you're going to do. Starch. Okay, everybody loves starch, right? We've got corn starch, potato starch, oat starch, rice starch. Most familiar, I think, is corn starch, and that's a thickening agent. It thickens things up, so it's great for soups. It's great for stews. It's great for gravies. A lot of people use it for a whole bunch of things, and it's handy to have on hand. We don't use it a lot, so normally one container, it's a decent sized container, will last me a year plus, but it depends on what you use it for and how often. And so you have to take a look at that and see for your family. But it's good to have on hand to be able to thicken some things up that may not be as thick as you like them. There are other things let's talk about salt. Number 7 is salt, okay? We've got a bunch of different salts. There's all kinds of salts. We have pink Himalayan salt. We have iodinized, you notice I struggle, salt, table salt. We have uniodinized table salt. We have kosher salt. We have pickling salt. We have, it's all kinds of salt. Coarse salt. Finely ground salt. Okay, so when it comes to salt, I think most of us growing up, at least my age, you had the shaker of salt on the table, and that's what you used. It wasn't until you got a little more into things that you learned, oh, look I kind of like this. I have grown to really love the coarse salt, the kosher salt, the chunkier salt, I like salt. I don't bathe my food in it, but I do like adding it. So I like having that available, and the kosher salt is super great because it's dual purpose. You can use it for your canning. So I have kind of moved over to that, right? We've got a little bit of the other stuff left. I seriously picked up, I think, a 50-pound bag of table salt 5 years ago. We're still working off of it, okay? It's crazy. So, and it lasts forever. Another forever food. There you go. So take a look at salt and try to stock up on that. Number 8 is powdered items. We've got powdered milk, powdered buttermilk, powdered eggs, okay? Powdered, yeah. There's all kinds of things now that you can have powdered. Cocoa powder. Cocoa powder, to me, is so important. I actually went looking for that today and was having some difficulty finding a decent price that I could get my hands on, because I'm like, I don't really have a lot of that, and I think I need to stock up on it because it's not exactly cheap. And a lot of the recipes I use end up doing like, a cup or so of it. And so that adds up pretty quick. I did find a deal, at least I think it's a deal, on Amazon. I'll put that link down below. You guys check it out. Let me know. For me, that was a good price. It was for 5 pounds of cocoa powder. So check that out and see if that's something that interests you. But if you don't use it a lot, don't worry about it. It's unsweetened cocoa powder. You can add sugar to your taste. You can bake with it. You can cook with it. It's absolutely fantastic to have around. So look at different powdered items like that, which kind of leads into my number 9, which is baking mixes. I'm not a huge advocate of these, but they do come in handy sometimes. So I'm talking about like your Bisquick, right? Or your Jiffy, mixes, those kinds of things. The ones that are packaged and have everything all pre-mixed together already. Cornbread mixes, that kind of stuff. If you use those, then get them. But remember to check the dates on them. There's typically always a best by date, but they do go bad. Bisquick does go bad. So that's not a long-term kind of thing to store up. But the things that you make Bisquick out of, your own homemade Bisquick, Google it. It's out there in droves, right? And you can make it up as you want. You can make up a little bit ahead of time so that you've got it for a couple months. All kinds of instructions on how to do that online. And that way you're using the stuff that you have stored up. Your flour, your sugar, your lard, all that stuff, okay? And you're making your own. You don't have the box. You don't have to worry about, their packaging. You don't have to worry about trying to find some place in your pantry for it because it's already in its own buckets and whatnot in your pantry. So take a look at the different, pre-mixes that you may or may not purchase. If you're a cake mix person, there's all kinds of ways to make homemade cake. And it's not hard. It's actually pretty easy. It's just that there are generations now that have been trained that the way you make a cake is out of a box. It's actually pretty easy to make it from scratch. And you have all the ingredients there, and they don't go bad. Cake mixes, brownie mixes, those go bad. This way, you're better off with the ingredients. So the next thing and the final thing for today's video is spices and herbs. This is totally dependent on you and your taste, your family's cooking style. If you do a lot of Indian, if you do a lot of Mexican, if you do a lot, it's totally up to you. And so I advise you go out and get a little bit of what you normally use. But those also have kind of a shelf life. So when you get them, if you're going to buy them in bulk, that's awesome because you can normally get a better price if you buy them in bulk. But store them properly. So you can either put them into Mylar bags and seal them up. You can put them into mason jars with an oxygen absorber or vacuum seal them and put them someplace cool and dark, right? Same rule for every other pantry item. And make sure to put a date on there, because after a while they can lose some of their flavor if they're just left in their normal packaging. But if you put them in something that's airtight, that's light proof, then you keep them stored in a nice cool dark place, then they'll actually last you for a good while. I had cumin last me 4 years with no issues because I kept it stored properly. So you want to go through, take a look at the things that you use the most of. It's those one-off things that throw you for a loop. So you find a different way to do some recipes, you know. But the main herbs, I'm not talking, don't go out there and buy every McCormick spice bottle that's out there, or Simply Organic, or whatever. Don't do that. Buy the ones that you use. And if you can, buy them in bulk, because that's how you save some money. So I hope that this kind of triggered some thoughts for you on things that you can stock up for, things that you can prepare for before all the coming price increases, because it's going up, and it's been going up, and it's going to keep going up, and they're going to keep telling us that it's going up, but it's going up. And I want you guys to be prepared. I want you to be on top of it. Check back tomorrow, because we'll have the next video in this series, and we will talk about the next 10 things that you can stock up on. Remember to check out the links below for some of the stuff that we've discussed. Remember to stock up today. Be prepared, not panicked. I want the best for all of you. And until next time, please be safe.